Mississippi State, obviously, they're playing really well right now. Won their last 2 ball games. Their quarterback, Will Rogers, was incredible last Saturday. I think he was 36 for 39. They protect him real well. Nobody really got close to him. Have a lot of wideouts that are playing really well. Have 2 really nice backs on offense. They're starting to hit on all strides, I think, all cylinders on offense. Defensively, they play so much multiple defense. Do it from many fronts, and they move. I think the thing that's most concerning, they're big, but they have a lot of movement, a lot of blitzes. You got to stay out of 3rd and long against them, but they move all the time and have the speed to do that with. I like their linebackers in Johnson and Watson and Tyra Sweet. You got to find out where he is all the time because he's a really good player. But they're playing extremely well coached, and we're looking forward to having them come over here at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
I was wondering if there's any concern after, being forced to kind of take an easier week a couple of weeks ago, preparing for UAPB with your starters and stuff, and then having the bye. Is there any concern of, I don't know if a layover effect, but not having been in the grind week after week and jumping back in? Is there any concern that maybe the energy might not be where you want it?
Trey, they're all, yes, there's always, you think about that, but we stayed with the rule on Tuesday off. I know a lot of the SEC schools got a waiver and they're practicing on Tuesday. We stayed with it off simply because we wanted, we had Friday, Saturday off, and we wanted to get our kids back. We didn't want to really go those 3 days. So we practiced yesterday, and it was a very good practice, very lively practice. We weren't quite on offensively. The effort was there. But I think, yes, that was a concern, and so that's why we kind of stayed with the Tuesday off so we could come in and get a practice yesterday.
Pretty wild to think about. Last year you faced Mississippi State, and Costello had set a record for passing yards in the SEC, and now Will Rogers sets a record for completion percentage.
Yeah, I think it says something about the offensive system that they have, and they run it very well. They play extremely hard. Their wideouts are really good blockers. They run a lot of tunnel screen, a lot of screens out there, and they're really good physical blockers. It's a physical football team. It plays really hard. They're playing well, identical records. But, yeah, it is kind of they're both quarterbacks, 2 different ones coming off of record days, but he was on Saturday night. I had a chance to obviously watch it live, and then again Sunday morning. But they're playing really well. He is especially.
Just usually with each teams, everyone talks about their offense. Are you surprised how good their defense has been this year?
Well, I'm not really surprised, but they've been really good. Very disruptive, have a lot of playmakers on defense, guys that can, Peters back there, the safety, is really good. I think he's 3rd on the team in tackles, a couple of interceptions. And I like their linebackers a lot. I think they're very active. But really what makes them go is schematics, a lot of movement, and a lot of long stick movement. In other words, a lot of 2 and 3, a lot of 2-gap movement where a lot of teams will move one gap, especially man teams. They're more of a zone principle up front, play a lot of man in the back end, but they're more of a zone 2-gap movement type team, and you have to be very athletic to catch hold of them when they're moving.
Also, Wagner or any of the others you expect to be back this week?
Yeah, I think Dalton will be back. He practiced yesterday and did the walkthroughs last week. I expect him to be back.
You guys had such a good defensive scheme on them last year. How are they maybe a little bit different with Rogers under the controls? And do you have to, mix things up and not do exactly what you did last year?
Well, we'll certainly mix it up. We had really good film off of Kentucky because they tried to do a lot of the things and I'm sure it's just them, but a lot of the things were similar to what we did a year ago, what they did, and so we got an idea of what answers would be to that strategy of a defense. We'll certainly mix up some things, but we're just going to try to run our defense and rally to the football. I think that was a big emphasis yesterday. We've got to get a lot of hats to the football. Got to know where our help's coming from, whether we're trying to turn him inside or our help's coming from the corner or whatever it may be on those bubble screens. So I thought we did a really good job in individual yesterday on defense, and then taking it over to team. But the bottom line is you got to get a lot of hats to the ball, and we've got to go chase some football.
Offensively, in a game like this, is the ball control and your run game like maybe even more imperative to try to keep them on the sidelines? And how do you
I
think
think
of that?
it's what we do. You know, we're a running football team, so certainly we're trying to find ways to have success there. You have to win first down against this team, however you're trying to do it. You know, I've already spoke about staying out of third and long because they're very, very good at their blitz schematics and their personnel. And so you have to win first down, stay out of third and long, and however that is, obviously, you know, whether it's run or pass. Obviously, we're a run football team first, and we're going to try to establish that.
Coach, I was talking with Danny about this. He found out that you guys are the only team in the SEC in the month of October that didn't have an official visitor in, I think due to the 5 different venues you played in October, or not all in October, but the 11 o'clock kickoffs also. What are your plans, knowing you got a 3 o'clock for this one and then a 1:30 for the next one at home? What are your plans moving forward for recruiting? And is there a time that you would prefer to have an official visitor, whether it's the spring or in season or around the late signing period or anything?
Well, we've addressed that last week, trying to get as many recruits as we possibly can from Mississippi State, just simply because of what we would anyway, but simply because of what you just spoke about. So I think we've got a pretty fine list working right now to get the recruits here at 3 o'clock. Ideally, if you want to recruit, the time would be a night game, you know, like Texas. And then unless a guy's just adamant that he wants to see a game, or if he's so far away and he says, hey, I want to see the atmosphere, then we would rather bring him in December if we could, simply because you get 48 hours with the parent, with the young man. But, you know, parents earn that right to be on a, wine and dine education type visit, and you can't really do it the right way because of the game and because of prep going for the next week. You do it the best you can, but they get a lot better experience if you can wait until December. Just kids aren't doing that right now, and we do have a few guys. Certainly that we're trying to get to come in December now, but most of our official visits are over.
Hey, Sam, you look at the top receivers, they're all averaging under 10 yards a catch. You know, and then, their passing games obviously is kind of shorter and higher percentage. Just how is that different than maybe other passing games? How effective do you think they are with that?
Well, they're very effective with it, and I think every throw is a run. I mean, basically, they get 20 personnel and they flare different guys, sometimes both of them, one to play action, flare another guy. But they're just, I saw them the other day on 3rd and 2, and it was just flare to the back, first down. I mean, it's I don't know his philosophy, but it looks to me like the short passing game is a rush for them. They did run it more than they have, I believe, all year Saturday against Kentucky, and ran it well. They've got adequate, really good backs, quick, shifty guys, but I think basically he's just trying to move his sticks and find mismatches, find open space, and Coach Leach is really good about that. And I think Will Rogers understands the offense really, really well, and they're averaging 10 or less because they don't throw the ball very far down the field the majority of the time. They're trying to, stay on rhythm and move the chains, and can get very frustrating if you don't break up a pass or get to the quarterback or something like that. It can be frustrating because when they're on, they're on.
And then, last year, that was your first SEC, well, it was your first win period. Broke a long SEC losing streak when you guys went to Mississippi State. That's where the jukebox phrase, was born. Well, looking back on that game, how big a win was that? Just what are your memories of that?
Well, I mean, it was I think it was my second game here, maybe. I think it was, Georgia and then Mississippi State. And it was just my memory was seeing the kids' faces and kind of the relief in the locker room for them. I really, honestly, I didn't know how long the streak was of how many, we had lost or anything. I knew it was a couple of years, but I didn't know how far it went back after that. And I think it was just seeing the kids, how excited they were about winning. And then I remember that we left a few kids back here instead of taking them to the game. And our kids rose up to the occasion and won the game. And I remember the movie the night before was really a good movie, and I quit honking at people when I was behind them. I know that.
Did you have any idea that jukebox phrase would take off like that?
Oh, no. I mean, it's Arkansas. I mean, I had no idea that. I mean, I didn't plan it. I thought it, I didn't know what, knows how I say things, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. I understand that. But that one there was, I just said, turn that damn jukebox on, and I never thought about it. I was excited, and I didn't know it was going to become a T-shirt, but it has been.
Coach, how beneficial has it been in terms of just injuries, like guys that are playing through stuff? Not so. I think you mentioned Utsey and Wagner will be back for this one most likely, but just the guys that have been fighting through stuff that maybe you don't see reported.
I think you could see it a little bit, Trey, yesterday at practice, the way the guys practiced. The enthusiasm at practice. I think everybody got their legs back. We needed it, but I think it's been very beneficial to us. And we basically scheduled WAG surgery where we knew that if everything went well with the surgery, we could get him back for this last 4-game run. And Utsey, I don't know if he could have went against Pine Bluff or not, but we held him so he could be ready. And Burks has had a little issue that we worked on last week. I think it was very beneficial, and you could kind of feel it yesterday at practice, and it could have had something to do with the weather. It was cool too, and things of that nature. But I think it's we're feeling, we came back and got a little well-needed break.
And specifically on KJ with his knee, was that limiting him any, whether it's just a few percentage points or something of what he normally is, just with because he's had some extra padding on it? On
KJ Jefferson, I think after the Ole Miss game, who would play Auburn after that? The Auburn game, I believe he was probably limited during that game. But other than that, I think he's fine now.
Coach, Mississippi State's offense converting third downs close to 50%. Your third down defense has been pretty good too. Do you feel like that down, could play a big role in this?
I think so, and I noticed that the other night he ran the ball a few times on third down as well. But I think, obviously we have to get him off the field, and, coaches had a history of going for it on fourth down as well, but, not like Lane, but he goes for it on fourth down, and so we have to be conscious of that too, and figuring out what Barry calls on third down, knowing that there's a possibility he's going to go for it again. But, yeah, it's a big deal. We got to get off the field. We've been pretty good at it. They've been very good at it. So I think that'll be a big key to the game.
I got two-part question. Jaden Johnson, how has he progressed, and then also how has Greg Brooks kind of responded to? I know he didn't start the last game. How has he responded to that?
Greg's been a man about it. Obviously, when you, and I hate to say lose your starting job, but when you get replaced, you have two options. You can either go beat the guy back out, or you can mope and pout and guarantee you're not going to beat him out. I think with Simeon Blair and Greg both, I think they both go, hey, I see what I need to do to correct so I can get back on the field. And they've had great attitudes. Greg specifically had a really good, well, so did Simeon, a good practice yesterday. And you can't beat somebody out pouting, and neither one of them have done that. They've gone back trying to win their job back.
How difficult is that position to play, especially against a team like Mississippi State, the nickel spot, where you got to be able to.
Well, it's hard because you had the screen in there. You're also contained force, and then you've certainly got to be aware of all the crossing routes they have and the stop routes they have. It's a hard position to play most of the time, especially against Mississippi State. But I think we'll be ready to do that. We got to have help. If they catch the ball out there in the flat, we've got to rally around the ball. We just have to get a lot of bodies to the ball and understand, again, like I say, where all our help's coming from.
When you look at last year's game, Fouché had 2 picks against him. Brooks had the really big pick. So, I don't know, does that experience of facing that scheme last year and having success help these guys?
I hope so. I hope it just brings some confidence. Again, we have a lot of guys that played against them last year, and certainly they have a lot of returning starters coming back too. I think maybe 8 or so. And it's just 2 pretty good teams, I think. Both 5-3. Both of us had some big wins this year, and I'm glad we have them here. And I'm glad our crowd. Hopefully, I'm sure they'll make a difference in the game, and we need them here certainly. But I think playing them last year and having some success, that certainly will help us some.
And then Slusher, what did you think? I know there was a deep route in the first half, but all in all, is he? Do you think he's picking things up and can kind of be the guy back there?
I think so. I think he's doing about what I thought he would do whenever we recruited him. The problem was he was, had a lot of injuries his first year here, and then had a lot of injuries at the beginning of this year too, or he would have played a lot more ball than what he has. But fortunately for us, he got healthy at about the time Cat had to have his shoulder surgery, and I think he'll just continue to get better and better. He's very talented, very physical. He's still thinking back there instead of reacting a little bit, and that gets him behind some routes at times, but he'll continue to improve that. I have no doubt, because he's talented and he cares.
Coach, what's your opinion right now on wide receivers outside of Burks? There's been some guys that have popped up here and there, but overall, kind of seems like it's been an inconsistent group.
Well, I think different games, different guys have stood out, and then different games, different guys have not. Certainly Warren Thompson's done some nice things for us. And then last week he didn't play very well. Davion Warren has been inconsistent, like you said, but yet, he played a little bit better last week. So that group, we're still trying to find consistency in the others besides Burks. Tyson Morris, I think, is still very, very consistent. He just, he didn't get any targets last week, and basically was on the field for a half, and so I look for him to have another good game. But you're right. I think with Keytron, he finally caught a touchdown pass and things. So we have those 3 young guys that we're counting on for the future. But you're right. It hasn't been a real consistent group, and we've got to figure out the 3 that are out there that are going to play consistently. And I don't think we have the answer right now on that.
Hey, Sam, I think Mike Leach just said he doesn't really care that much about time possession, but the fact is Mississippi State's leading the league. They over 35 minutes of time possession. Does that put extra pressure on your offense? I mean, if you score fast, it probably doesn't matter, but if you have some 3-and-outs, does that put a lot of pressure on you guys when they hold the ball so much?
Well, I mean, it can, but the defense also has to get them off the field. You know what I mean? To me, it would put pressure on everybody. You know, the defense has to, if they get them off the field, they're not going to lead time of possession, you know. So I think I get what you're asking me, but I don't think that we'll slow down because of that fact. I think we're just going to try to score points. But certainly it goes back to what you just said about the average of 10 yards and things that they're running the football, throwing it, you know, basically, and therefore you've got the time of possession. There's not many long strikes, even though they're very capable. Everything's screens and stop routes and slants and things and crossers, things of that nature.
And they've got a guy Griffin averaging almost 40 yards on kickoff returns, but the way
He's good now.
The way Vito's kicking, does he really neutralize a guy like that? Or?
Well, he'll bring it out five deep and has no problem with it. Done it all year. He's really good. Vito's been kicking it out, and as long as he kicks it out of the back of the end zone, you can't return it. You know, so we'll see if he can continue to do that. But he's very, very scary.
I guess several times this year you're talking about Dominic Johnson not getting the ball enough. I mean, Does it matter of maybe just starting him and going with him, or is he just that much more effective, you know, coming in after, off the bench?
He needs more carries. So, you know, you coming to practice today?
I'll make it by there.
So, I mean, he needs more carries. That's how it is. So, if that's starting him to get the more carries, then that's what we're going to do. But he got to get more carries. I mean, he's a guy that running over people, making people miss, and he needs to get more carries. So, whatever that is, he needs a lot more carries. And I thought we had that figured out, but we didn't. And so I'm positive we got it figured out.
Yeah, on Traylon, you said you had an issue. Is it the same thing, the foot or whatever, that was
Who's
bothering
that?
Traylon Burks?
Yeah.
That was earlier. What's going on with him?
He's had that foot for a while, and so we rested it. I think he's going to be fine. Did some other things, but I think he'll be ready to go. He had a good practice yesterday and did not practice at all last week. Some walks, did the walks, but been kind of a nagging deal ever since fall camp.
Yeah. I know you're talking about making this run, and you take one game at a time during the run. But, these 4 games, all conference, 2 home, 2 road, just how big is it in terms of where you want to get to these last 4?
It's big because of how we started the season. I mean, it's big. It would be big anytime, but you don't want to go 4-0 and ranked 8th in the country and then let it all slide away from you, and I don't feel like it will if we can win X number of games. I don't want to get into that, but yeah, I mean, we won 1 conference game. We need to win some conference football games, and we need to start this run. And like you say, they're one at a time, but this would get us bowl eligible. That'd be a big thing for us, and so that's another key to it as well. But I mean, we want to finish the season as good as we possibly can, and I think we will. I mean, we're back healthy and things of that nature, but also the teams that you play are pretty good, and we know that. So it was a big challenge, but we're looking forward to it. 2 of the 4 at home, and it'd be good to get back in the stadium.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank y'all.